The nude is never complete, just like any other photograph. However, we can use that absence in our favor to create more interesting images. Hi, my name is Israel Perez. I'm a filmmaker, photographer based in LA. And my mission is to share with you what I've learned and help you think visually. So the reason why a photograph is never complete is because a photograph is always out of context. So when you take a photograph, you always take a moment in time. We are leaving out what came before and what came after. And so we are left alone with just a fragment of time. And so there's no context. It's just an isolated fragment and therefore devoid of any meaning. And that's why photography is so easily manipulated by the media, because you can create meaning. You can attach meaning to the photograph that is not necessary or that doesn't belong to the photograph. So we see that at its best in the news when they take a photograph to mean something that is not. But by creating a context, you are attaching new meaning to that image. Let me interrupt here real quickly. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Thank you. For instance, let's imagine a woman sitting on a bed, pulling on a stocking. When you freeze that moment, it is very difficult to know if she's actually putting it on or taking it off. Or maybe she was doing something else. For anybody, you could attach any kind of meaning. And you see that more prominently in YouTube thumbnails, where people imagine stories out of pictures, real pictures that have nothing to do with what's actually happening. And so if a photograph doesn't have a context, like a sequence or a piece of writing or something that determines its meaning, it's going to be just left alone to the viewer to interpret and imagine. Then the viewer is left alone to figure out what that photograph could be about. And it could be about anything really. And the viewer could imagine 10, 100 different possible worlds and yet have no clue of what's really going on. So the only thing that we know for sure is that that photograph is a trace of reality and yet is incomplete. We don't know, we don't have enough information to determine what that is about. You have an ambiguous image in front of you. It's part of reality and yet we cannot determine what it is exactly. The good news for photographers is that we can use that to our advantage to create more interesting images, because that way we can add more mystery, more ambiguity, and more play with suggestion, because the image lives in that liminal space where it doesn't belong to any world. There's no before and after. And so you are permitted to create different interpretations of that image. Imagine a woman nude just wearing a robe, or the robe is slipping off her shoulders, and you freeze at that moment. We don't see a lot of her body, but that moment frozen kind of suggests where that could be leading to. For instance, is the robe slipping off her body, or is she putting it on? And if she's putting it on, what happened before? And so by creating this sense of not knowing where we were and where it's going, what we are suggesting, or what's doing to the audience, is giving this sense of anticipation and suspense, and creates excitement for the viewer. There's some mystery, something inconclusive that we need to resolve in our head. And so we engage more in the photograph to try to finish it, as it were. So we try to finish that image somehow in our imagination. And each time we may come up with something different every time we look at it. And so I think it's a very interesting way to using that approach of freezing something right in the moment where we don't know where the thing is exactly coming from, to create that suspense and sense of anticipation that makes the audience more excited about where that could be leading to, even though we will never know. But it's a very interesting way of approaching the nude, because now you can be more suggestive. You don't have to show everything, but sometimes the power resides in suggesting a story that could be happening in the photo without giving too much information. That is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.